All right, so today we're diving into a real head scratcher. And I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous about this
Well,
one.
that's what makes these deep dives so fun, right?
True, true. But it's the soul. That's like the ultimate mystery.
It really is. And you've sent us some amazing stuff to unpack. Religious texts, philosophy, psychology. It seems like everyone's got something to say about the soul.
Okay, so where do we even begin with something like this? It's not exactly like we can just look it up in the dictionary.
Well, defining the soul is tricky, right? It's so personal, so culturally rooted. What a soul is often depends on what you believe.
That's a great point. Even within, say, Christianity, you've got a whole range of interpretations.
Exactly, and that's just one religion. So maybe a good starting point would be to look at some of the major belief systems. You've got a lot here on the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam.
Yeah, and even though they've got their differences,
Yeah.
they seem to share this idea of the soul as this eternal essence of a person. Like, it's who we really are beneath all the, human stuff.
Absolutely, and it's that essence that gets judged in the afterlife.
Okay, hold on, Judge Tao. Like, we're all facing a cosmic jury after we die.
Well, think of it like this, your life is like this giant tapestry,
Yeah.
right? All your actions, thoughts, choices, they're the threads. And when you die, that tapestry is what's being assessed. Did you live a good life? Did you harm others? That kind of thing.
So it's not so much about a literal courtroom, but more like our actions have consequences for our souls even after we're gone.
Exactly. In these traditions, your earthly deeds echo into eternity.
Wow, I'm suddenly feeling very seen by the universe.
It's definitely a powerful concept, and it highlights how important our actions are, not just for ourselves, but for our soul's ultimate fate.
No pressure or anything.
Right. But when we move from west to east, things get even more interesting. Hinduism and Buddhism have fascinating perspectives on the soul. You've got all that material on Atman and Brahman.
Yeah, that stuff kind of makes my head spin. It's a bit much.
Well, imagine a single drop of water. That's like the Atman, your individual soul. Now picture that drop merging back into a vast, boundless ocean. That's Brahman, the ultimate reality, everything that is.
Okay, so instead of facing judgment in Hinduism, the soul's goal is to reunite with this ultimate source.
You could say that. It's about remembering that we're not separate, but part of this larger cosmic whole.
And that journey can take a while, right?
Yeah.
Like multiple lifetimes.
Exactly. Hindus believe in reincarnation, this cycle of death and rebirth called samsara. The soul keeps evolving until it achieves liberation moksha, that state of complete unity with Brahman.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure on each lifetime to get it right. So Hinduism is about merging with something larger, but then there's Buddhism, and they flip the script entirely.
Right. In Buddhism, there's this idea of anatman, which translates to no self.
Wait, so they don't believe in a soul at all. What about reincarnation?
They do, but it's not a permanent self being reborn. It's more like a flame being transferred from one candle to another. The flame keeps going, even though it's not the same flame, right?
Okay, so it's like our essence continues, but it's always changing. There's no fixed me inside.
Exactly. What we perceive as ourself is more like a process, a flow of experiences, rather than some unchanging entity. And this flow is shaped by our actions, by karma.
So even without a fixed soul, Buddhism is still saying our choices matter.
Absolutely. Our actions create ripples that extend beyond our individual lives, and those ripples contribute to the ongoing flow of existence.
It's amazing how differently cultures have interpreted something as fundamental as the soul. But one thing's for sure, it's a topic that's captivated humanity for centuries. And speaking of captivating, let's move on to how some of history's greatest minds have tackled this very subject. We're talking philosophy. All right, philosophy time. And we're kicking things off with some real heavy hitters. Plato, Descartes, they're all about this idea of dualism, right?
Yeah, dualism is basically saying the mind and the body, they're two separate things, like completely different substances.
So, like, my arm is one thing, my thoughts are another, and never the twain shall meet.
Well, they meet somehow, but you've got the right idea. Plato, he believed our souls, they actually exist before we're even born. And get this, he thought being stuck in a physical body, it was actually holding the soul back.
Held back. From what?
From true knowledge. Plato believed the soul was all about seeking truth, but being trapped in this material world, well, it was like trying to see the sun through a thick fog.
So death was kind of like liberation for the soul. Like finally it could break free and see clearly.
Exactly, free from the limitations of the body. Now, Descartes, he came at it a bit differently. He's the I think, therefore I am guy.
Oh yeah, I remember that from Philosophy 101. Vaguely.
So his argument was, We can doubt our bodies exist. Maybe we're dreaming or hallucinating, who knows? But we can't doubt that we're thinking. That means the mind, the thing doing the thinking, must be something distinct from the physical stuff.
Okay, that actually makes sense. So even if you had a perfect robot copy of me, it wouldn't really be me, because it wouldn't have that unique soul-y essence.
You got it. It's the soul that makes us unique individuals, not just biological machines.
Okay, I'm with you so far. But here's the thing. If the soul and body are so different, how do they even interact? Like, how does my mind tell my hand to pick up this coffee cup?
Well, Descartes had some interesting ideas about that. He thought the pineal gland, this tiny part of the brain, was like the meeting point between the soul and the body.
So the soul sends out a signal, the pineal gland picks it up, and bam, my hand moves.
Something like that, though modern science has different ideas about the pineal gland.
Good to know. Still, dualism is pretty compelling, you've got to admit. But I know there's another side to this whole debate. What about the folks who say the soul is all just like brain stuff?
The materialists. Yeah, they're essentially the opposite of dualists. They say, look, the brain is incredibly complex. Maybe all this soul talk is just us trying to explain what our brains are doing.
So no heavenly escapes or reincarnation cycles, just neurons firing and making us think we're having these profound experiences.
It's a bit more nuanced than that, but the core idea is that consciousness, our sense of self, it all comes down to physical processes in the brain.
And we are learning so much about the brain these days, like how memories form, how emotions work. It does make you wonder, is that all we are?
It's a question without an easy answer. And it gets even trickier when you think about consciousness. Like, can a physical system, even a super complex one, really capture the feeling of what it's like to be alive, to be aware?
It's like, can a computer ever truly understand what it's like to feel things, to have a soul? It's a mind-boggling question.
It really is. And that's where someone like Aristotle comes in. He offered a kind of middle ground between dualism and materialism. He called it hylomorphism.
Hylomorphism. Okay, I'm gonna need you to unpack that one for me.
Sure. Think of it like this. Imagine a house. The matter is the bricks, the wood, the concrete. But the form is the house's shape, its layout, the way those materials are put together to make it a place where people can live.
So the body is the matter, and the soul is what gives it that form. That makes it more than just a pile of bricks, so to speak.
Exactly. Aristotle believed the soul wasn't separate from the body, but rather its essential organizing principle. It's what makes a body alive, gives it the potential for growth, for change, for being human.
So it's not that we have souls, we are souls, in a way.
You could put it that way. It's a way of seeing ourselves as a unified whole, where the physical and the non-physical are inseparable.
I like that. It feels more complete somehow. But all this talk about souls and brains and ancient philosophers, it kind of makes you wonder, what does this mean for us now, like in our everyday lives?
It's a question people have been wrestling with for, well, probably as long as we've been able to think about thinking. And I'm not sure there's a single right answer for everyone.
Yet maybe that's okay. Remember that psychology study you sent over? It talked about how searching for the soul is really about searching for meaning in life.
Right. And whether we find answers in religion and philosophy or even in science, it's the searching itself that matters. It pushes us to examine our lives, our values, what it means to be human.
It's kind of humbling when you think about it. We started with these ancient ideas about judgment and karma, then dove into mind-blowing philosophy about what makes us.
And through it all, the thread that connects it all is this deep human need to understand who we are and why we're here.
And where we go after all this is done. It's a pretty universal question when you think about it.
Absolutely. Every culture has its own myths and beliefs about the soul, the afterlife, all of it. And I think that speaks to how deeply we crave meaning and purpose, even when things feel uncertain.
So maybe it's not about finding the right definition of the soul. Maybe it's about how those big questions, those different perspectives, how they shape the way we live our lives.
Beautifully said. It's about recognizing that the human experience is full of mystery, and leaning into those mysteries can make life all the richer.
I don't know about you, but my brain is definitely feeling a little fried after that deep dive. We covered thousands of years of thought in under an hour.
Time flies when you're pondering the soul, but you know, the exploration doesn't have to end here.
Right. There's always more to learn, more to question. To all our listeners out there, if this conversation sparked something in you, keep that curiosity going. Read those ancient texts, dive into the philosophy, heck, even strike up a conversation with someone you disagree with. You never know what insights you might uncover.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Keep searching, keep questioning, and who knows? You might just surprise yourself with what you discover about yourself and the universe around you.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the soul. Until next time, keep those minds open and those questions coming.